get out to Austin, Texas, the 40 acres, a school and a spring practice that has been widely covered by folks that don't even necessarily cover our game typically. We'll go ahead and throw the @ out there. Adam Schefter wrote an article talking about the Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning quarterback derby. I'm not going to talk about that battle a lot because we've done it extensively on other shows. I'll just say this. There was not a quarterback battle in Austin, Texas between Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning. That's not to say there is not still a spirit of competition in that quarterback room. I'll leave it at that. Other practice notes. The good folks at Inside Texas are doing a phenomenal job covering this. They have a YouTube channel. The Texas On 3 site, Inside Texas, also has a ton of other spring practice notes. So get a membership over there, lock it in over there. They have been really impressed with how physically imposing this Texas team looks taking the field in the spring. And it's just sort of the eye test, but to be able to look a little bit more physically imposing, to look a little bit stronger, I mean, that's a very good sign. Because think about who Texas wants to be. At their core, Texas wants to be a run-first football team and stop the run. We'll start with running the football. It's an RPO offense, meaning we're going to pass off of the run. But Bijan Robinson, he's gone to the league. Roschon Johnson, gone to the league. Two guys that are going to be studs for some ball club. But Texas, their whole system is predicated on getting 3 or 4 yards with the inside zone, then throwing off of it when your linebackers creep up, your safeties creep up. So having some sort of physicality about you in the trenches and running the football, it's a very big deal. That's how you set the table. Doesn't mean the meal is going to be phenomenal, but it's how you set the table, how you get things started running the rock. On the flip side of things, stopping the run. Steve Sarkisian said we've got a lot more confidence being able to do that right now. But again, going back to size, going back to being a little bit more physically imposing, that's like the price of admission. Okay, you can be speedy. That's important. Obviously, you got to be able to eat up angles and be able to play in space. Like, that's important. But big human beings moving other big human beings is like stopping the run 101. And they did that well last year, but to see that they are continuing to progress physically is going to equip them even more so to do that well this coming season. And I'll just say this, we don't want to read overall too much into this, but tough teams play big games in November, December. Like, that's just the way that it is. Look at Michigan, look at Georgia, heck, look at TCU, look at Ohio State. Ohio State, I think, was tough the majority of the year outside of the Michigan game. Tough physical teams, big body, hard body teams play big games at the end of the year. So the fact that Texas is sort of checking that box in the spring can only, check a box that's in front of you, and that's the box that's in front of them. So I'm encouraged by that for Texas. Some guys that have stood out. Savion Red was a receiver last year for Texas. He is playing running back right now in the spring. And 2 practices in, the coaching staff has spoken really highly of him, have highlighted him in their post-practice press conferences. It looks like beefed up right around 10 pounds. ESPN had him at like 205 pounds last season. The Texas website right now has him at like 215. So bulked up a little bit. You would imagine to maybe get some carries. There's going to be carries to be had in that room with Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson both leaving, so a fair amount of production. The fact that he's a former wide receiver gives you some excitement because he can be flexible for you with what you do offensively. He can catch passes naturally. He's looked really good in one-on-ones, according to the people at Inside Texas, when it comes to him on a linebacker. Like, that's a mismatch you can take advantage of. Another thing that Texas wants to do. How many times did we see them put Bijan Robinson out in the slot and throw him a vertical route? That's a luxury not a lot of teams have. So Savion Red making that transition and making that transition relatively smoothly so far, it's a good sign for the people at Texas. We'll see what happens, but very excited on his progress right now and what he can bring to the table for them offensively. 3 wide receivers we got to talk about. We'll start with 2 newcomers. Johntay Cook has looked crisp. Bobby Burton watched practice the other day and said there was a routes on air period where Quinn Ewers threw, I believe it was an outbreaking route to Xavier Worthy. Again, just on air, but it said it looked really crisp. Right after that, the next 2 players in line to throw that route and execute that drill were Arch Manning, and then you had Johntay Cook. And Bobby Burton said you couldn't really tell too much of a difference in terms of skill level or quickness or comfortability, and it's just 1 rep. It's on air. There's no defense, but the eye test is telling. All right, and for Johntay Cook to look like he's stride for stride with what Xavier Worthy is doing during routes on air, read into that as much as you want. I'm just saying that's a good sign. My guy's been through winter conditioning now and just got onto campus and is sort of getting his feet wet, but to look crisp and look comfortable and be more or less a standout to this point during spring practice, that's a very good sign. Johntay Cook looking good out there. A.D. Mitchell, receiver, transferred from Georgia. They said he just looks like he's built a little bit differently physically, a little bit more muscly, a little bit more of a put-together lower body. The reason why that's important, what Texas did a lot last year was work the perimeter with their receiving core. They got the ball out in space and let those dudes get to work on bubbles and quick screens and smoke screens. And the reason why this is crucial for A.D. Mitchell to have a little bit more oomph to him physically, you got a block on the edge. Like Jordan Whittington put a dude in the dirt in the Red River rivalry, and that to me was like, all right, Texas has kind of got an edge now. To be able to have the physicality to do that, and for A.D. Mitchell to be put together to do that, that's a good sign, all right? So we'll see how this progresses. We know what we're getting in A.D. Mitchell in terms of what he does going up and winning contested catches and winning one-on-one. Like, he's going to be a guy for you in the pass game. I'm excited to see him block. I'm excited for that first pass play where they get it out to Xavier Worthy in the slot or Johntay Cook in the slot and A.D. Mitchell's outside just cracking down on a safety or pushing over a corner. That's going to be a lot of fun. You got to be physical at all levels, not just the offensive line, but your skill players as well. And A.D. Mitchell is put together in order to do that. It's a good sign on the 40 acres. Read into it as you will. We're a couple practices in, but it's a good sign on the 40 acres. And then finally, Xavier Worthy, you know what you're getting in him. Out there rocking the number one. You know what you're going to get with him. It's going to be special. Handling punt return duties, it looks like right now. But the thing that's interesting to me, or encouraging rather, first out there to practice. Okay, your best players working the hardest is what leads good football teams. It's no secret. Culture is a thing that we talk about a lot with Texas. And you can have the right coaching staff, you can say the right things, you can have the right things plastered across the wall in your weight room, but unless it's player-led, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So Xavier Worthy, don't think it's really a debate. The best player on Texas football team, leading the charge, getting out there early, setting the tone. I think it's a good sign for Texas. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.